Welcome to the Courage to Be podcast with Tania Vasallo. Before we get into this episode, I want to share with you that I'm on a mission to close the gender gap in the podcasting world so that more and more women's voices are heard. If you feel that this is something you value too, then please rate, review, and share the podcast. And in exchange, and as my way to say thank you to you, I want to give you free access to my signature course called Manifesting Abundance, which typically sells for $997. All you have to do to gain access is leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, take a snapshot of it, and send it to help.thecouragetobe@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up with access to the course. Welcome back to the Courage to Be, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And we are back with amazing Gail Larsen. Yay!
Thank you,
And
Tania.
if you haven't listened to our previous episode, I really encourage you to go back to listen to Gail's journey and why she's doing the work that she's doing, how she's gotten there, her capacity, her intuition, just her rituals, just everything about you, Gail. It's just like, oh, I want to be just like you. Just like, see how following my intuition and guidance and my path. And I will preface this episode, if you haven't listened to the other one, Gail's been one of my speaking mentors. I've been following Gail for many years. And funny enough, I read your book of Transformational Speaking. It's a funny story. I read it years ago. I had been following you through Hay House. And then we sat next to each other on a plane ride. And I was
I
like,
remember. Yeah.
I think this woman is Gail. She looks familiar to me. Like I've seen her on a summit or something. And I looked you up and I was like, it is her. And so I just started talking to you. And then I was hosting my events and I was asking you about locations for events. You were telling me about transformational speaking and I signed up for it. And it was one of the best classes, courses that I've done. It was just magical and it definitely enhanced my speaking and finding my own medicine. So Gail, guide us through today. I would love for you to talk about transformational speaking, just a little lesson, like where we can dip our toes in for anyone that's having to speak in public. And the majority of us are going to have to do this at some point or other in our lives, right?
Well, whether we're speaking in public or one-on-one, to be grounded in who we are and what we're here to say feels more important than ever in our world. So, as you know, my class is only 6 people. So nobody gets to hide in the back row. We're in a circle and we are working it. And I don't think anyone comes in with I don't want to fix up a speech. I mean, we might do that for an emergency tomorrow, but I want to look at how life has informed us, get out of jet lag about who we've become, and catch up and give voice to that, because that's what's going to be running truest in us and actually be important enough to force us to get up to speak whether we want to or not. Because standing in our power and our truth, when we know we have something to share, even if we're reluctant, can get us on our feet to make the difference we're here to make with the story our life has prepared us to tell. And most of us don't know what that is. So we do 3 days of exploration before we ever create a talk. And that exploration includes 3 things that I think have to be in place before we're really ready to do the speech we were born to give. The first thing is knowing our original medicine. It's a indigenous teaching that we all have gifts and talents nowhere else duplicated. Second part of that teaching, that sounds, well, I know that, yeah. But the second part of that is if we don't express it, it's lost to the world for all time. And transformational speaking is about expression. The other thing I've learned is if we are not living and expressing that medicine, we get sick. We're off track, we're not on purpose for our life, and no wonder it feels over or boring or, who cares? So instead of holding that as a teaching that, oh, yes, I know that, I make it real. We name our medicine. It's a whole afternoon process with reflection from a partner, with my intuitive gift of, oh, this is what I'm seeing, to get a medicine name that is the foundation. Because otherwise, Tanya, what happens is we see other speakers, we see other business people, and we think we move into comparison and competition. I should be like that. I would be more successful if I did that. No, you're going to do what you're here to do with your level of success, whatever that is, based on the truth of who you are. And if you keep outrunning that, it's really hard to have a consistent career path. So we start with original medicine. Then we move into what I call speaking from the home zone. Very different than the comfort zone. We need the comfort zone. It gets us hired. It's professional. They know we're going to keep our agreement. We have the skills. But it ends there and it's not memorable. In fact, it can be boring. So all of my coaching over the next few days in the class is how do you get home? Because when you're home, we express things we didn't know were available to us. And I have you do that through a story that is alive for you. What something that really feels juicy and important, whether strategically it makes any sense or not, because that's how you're going to get there and discover what's under it. And so my coaching is inviting emotion, inviting anger, inviting tears, because if you're not emotionally connected to what you're saying, how in the heck is the audience going to be? You know, I see so many people say, what if I cry? Well, good. It matters to you. It matters. And you second or third time you say it, you're not going to cry, but you're going to be connected with the emotion that makes that story because they will get it on a visceral level that just the words about it can never convey. And so all our coaching is home zone. And then I think on the third day, I don't know what day we do it, but I encourage you to find a voice you've silenced that brings you alive. Because we all have parts of ourselves that we have felt were inappropriate and shut down. And I actually learned this from a character that lives within me that I named Madame Ovary when I was going through menopause, because it was a very painful, difficult part of my life journey where I was crazy. I mean, we weren't getting much help then. And I was just trying to navigate this change in my body that made no sense, you know, emotionally or physically. And I had enough difficult experiences, and I was representing some of my clients at the time as a book agent. And I was talking to a woman in publishing who I'd presented books to, and we'd become friends. And I told her this horrible story that I was so embarrassed that I'd kept to myself for a year. And we had a weekend together, and I said, Adrienne, I got to tell you this awful thing that happened. I haven't dared talk to anyone. She was laughing so hard that tears were rolling down her cheeks. And I said, this isn't funny. And she said, it's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Write about it, but write funny. And it totally shape-shifted the whole thing. And I became Madame Ovary and started doing talks on midlife, using midlife humor. And I realized that was a part of myself I never had let out of the bag. Will they take me seriously? I had more fun and learned more about speaking from Madame Ovary than anything I'd ever seen in my years of work. So I know we all have that in us, and I try to find what is it for you, because that's going to enliven you and enliven your speaking. Now I dare to be outrageous, where before I was just, I remember Rumi saying, I used to be like you, calm, controlled, rational. But now I am seized by passion and creative fire. Watch out, no one's safe. So, what's that part of you that's seized by passion and creative fire that we tamp down because they can't handle it? Frankly, they love it. They want you to be outrageous because so many of us are in these boxes. So we play with that. and invite you to bring that voice into your speaking and to bring other voices in to keep it, to make it fun and personal, where the audience can relate to these characters instead of being all one voice. And then at the end of the third day, we finally get to, if you had 1 minute to speak, what would you say? And by that point, it's your words, your medicine, and it's alive. And when you have that, then you can develop a talk. And we do the last day, a 20-minute talk. I call it a rough draft in front of your new best friends, because everyone in the class is in the same boat. And it's really fun. We don't script, we structure. Because once your mind has got, this is where I'm going, and we know what it's like to be in the home zone, magic happens. And you may remember this, Tanya. I mean, people have their flip chart with their sticky notes and their outline, and they get in the home zone and they don't even look at it. And then they say, oh my God, I forgot that. If it holds together, we don't know what you forgot. But the audience feels you, and it matters and it lands. So that's the process. And I think once we have that process in our bones, we're in a place of so much more trust of what arises in the moment, because we don't have to have the words right. It's the energy behind it. Knowing our medicine. So we're not trying to be someone else or match them, but to bring our original gift to either the speech or the conversation or wherever we choose to engage.
Thank you for taking us through that process. Who do you think is the ideal person to take this kind of course?
Anyone who listens to this and says, yeah, I want what she's having, because it's so fun. Doesn't mean it's not challenging. But I think if we're tired of an old way, and there's a lot of old ways we're tired of, this is how we find our way. So anyone who's ready to show up authentically, take the risk of revealing what you're sitting on or discovering it, because this is a journey of discovery. It's an investment. So typically you have a professional need to explore how you show up for your speaking or your conversations. But I'd say, I think it's really the law of attraction. If this attracts you and you're tired of the old way of doing it and doing your speaking, this is the place to be, to explore what's possible for you.
Thank you for that. And how do you discover the medicine in each person? Or can we discover it on our own?
Yeah, I do. I think it's best with reflection from someone who doesn't hold a firm opinion of you, because that can keep us in the past instead of catching up to who we've become. So in class, we work with a partner that I call an important stranger, who gets to see who you've become now and to say, what's your medicine for me? But I do have an online course. If people sign up for my newsletter at realspeaking.com, you can do just the original medicine module for $99 instead of $199. And to do that and to get a partner to do it with you, or I sometimes assign partners when two people come in. It's just for 60 days. It's an exploration and an introduction to the whole online course, which follows what we do in the immersion.
And can our medicine change throughout time?
We might change the words for it if they don't really find lodging in our soul as true. But I think our medicine is with us our whole life. It just takes us a while to get it. I remember naming my medicine. Actually, others named it for me, which is the
Which
beauty.
was, can you
Hmm?
share with us, or is
Yeah,
it sacred?
someone was introducing me years ago, probably 20 years ago, to do a talk to a small group. I remember it so clearly, in Nevada City, California. And she said, Gail is a midwife of the soul. And Tanya, it was like, it felt so big. But I realized that is my medicine. But over the years, I wanted it to be more fun. I wanted more festive, and I kept trying to change the words. But every time, because the value of medicine is standing in the power of it, Whenever I would feel frightened about speaking, I would remind myself I'm the midwife of the soul. That's what would get me on my feet. If I didn't express it, it would be lost. So one year I taught at Omega Institute in New York for 10 years. And I had this really fun class assistant one year who'd been in my class, and she was 20, but she'd been teaching with her mom for 5 years. And we're getting ready for class, and I look at my email, and there's a woman who said, I have to come. There's 38 people on the wait list, and I have to come because I have a book coming out next week. And she said, I have muscle tested, and you are the Holy Grail. And we laughed. And so I added to my medicine name the Holy Gail, midwife of the soul. So it brought in more of that fun expression that I really want to be part of my teaching.
That's fabulous that you've been able to connect with, like, just shift it slightly. It's not like it's gone, but it's like, oh, okay, this is another part of the medicine, including that fun aspect of it. I had something else that just slipped my mind with the original medicine. Oh, with Madame Ovary. I love that. And I love that you're sharing about menopause because I've been doing a series on the podcast. If you're listening right now and you're a woman that's going into menopause, perimenopause, if you're in that stage, look for any episodes that have an M in front of the title of them. I want to share an amazing opportunity. My signature event, Increase Your Income and Impact, is happening April 3rd through 5th, which is a Thursday through Saturday, in person in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You will walk away from these 3 days shifting your mindset from not enough money to manifesting on the spot. You'll also learn how to get over your fears of unworthiness so that you can have a greater impact in the world. Plus, you'll get to connect with some amazing people that you'll become friends with, create partnerships, and who knows, maybe even walk out with some business. These in-person events are life transforming, but don't take my word. Listen to what some of the past participants have to say.
Hi, I'm Val Romero. I'm attending Tania's retreat, probably about the fifth one now. And the reason I keep attending is because she has so much information to offer around money mindset for us personally, but mostly around our business and how the way we're conducting our business with limiting beliefs that we might have. And so coming to a retreat like this really just does something for your soul. It rejuvenates you for your business, and it also has you thinking differently about your business. So if you get a chance, I would highly recommend it. Thank you.
If you found this inspiring, if you'd like to join us in Santa Fe, New Mexico this April, I'm gifting you a 50% discounted ticket. All you have to do is leave us a rating and review on iTunes and post a couple of comments under your favorite episode on YouTube. Take a screenshot and email us at help.thecouragetobe@gmail.com and type in event discount to claim your discounted ticket. I look forward to being your mentor and guide to transform your life. What were some of the stories from Madame Ovary that just became like you had that shift of like, okay, let's make this more fun, or this is getting in tune with who I truly am and what I'm experiencing, and I'm transferring, because how I'm seeing it, Gail, as you were telling that story, is you were transferring that energy of yourself, your original medicine, to this other woman, like it was just coming out naturally.
Or she was a part of my medicine I had denied, because it was such a painful time, Tanya. I think I used humor to deflect it. And I mean, I would do these performances where I would wear this large turquoise fishing vest filled with stuff to survive menopause, which included duct tape and WD-40, which were part of my performance to teach a woman how to sleep with a man without him seeing your changing body. And usually there'd always be men in the group. And I would say, with a woman usually, and I would say, do you mind if I play with your partner a bit during my thing? And they were game. So, the guy wasn't always too surprised, but I would usually choose someone who wore glasses. And I'd go up to him and I'd say, announce that I'm going to teach you how to sleep with a man without him seeing your body. And I would remove his glasses and I'd say, well, how do I look now? Kind of airbrushed, right? And so I'd be real flirty with him. And then I'd say, and, stroke his hair if he still has some. And then I would say, I'm really nervous. Do you mind if I take charge this time? And I would put an eye pillow over his eyes. I'd ask him to put his head back. And then he doesn't see what's happening, but the audience sees me getting out duct tape to attach this thing to his head. So they're laughing at that. And then I pull out the WD-40 and read the label, and it says stop squeaks, loosens rusted parts. And I'd say, yes, ladies, it's a lubricant and it's the best one on the market. Do you know why? And they'd say, why? And I'd say, because men understand it.
I love it.
Everyone loved it. And what I learned from that is that we can talk about tough things if we can laugh together. And laughter and story are the shortest distance between two people. So it became fun. And speaking had never been fun for me before. And I realized how desperate we are to laugh together. Our shared human frail condition. I mean, I think Madame Ovary still has a book to write about aging and eldership. That's in my plan because we have to laugh at the things that challenge us, or I think we don't get through it. And then
Yeah.
if someone lets the cat out of the bag and says the truth about something, other people will too. And that's the importance of our story.
Yeah, and it's just relatable. I mean, as you were explaining all of this, that's one of the things that just jumped out because it's in my radar. It's in my forefront right now. I'm going through some difficult moments, of just like, oh my God, how can I tame this? How can I control it? Why am I so irritable? Why am I crying for no reason? And I am jotting down. It's funny. That's why it stood out to me because I've been jotting down like these stories that make no sense for why, like the tears just streaming down my face or getting upset at something. I'm like, that makes no sense. Why did that just happen? So I love that you're sharing that. I wonder if you have any recordings of any of these, Gail, because I would so appreciate them in this moment in time for me.
Yeah, I will say I used to do a performance every year at the St. Francis Hotel. We do a holiday tea around Christmas. And
Oh,
I have a recording of Madame Ovary in the online academy to show people what I mean by a voice you silence. So I will send you that.
oh, I'd love to
Mm.
see that. That would be
Yeah.
great, Gail. That would be so
And I would
helpful.
dress up in Victorian lace and big hats. And honestly, Tanya, men would follow me down the street. I was sort of like Miss Kitty in Gunsmoke,
I
the
love it.
madam.
That is so great. It was a performance for you, what it sounds like.
Yeah, it was. And it was in speaking, we call it a humorist. You use humor, but you have a message. And my message really was about being real. It's a message that's always within me.
Thank you for sharing this. What a gift. Again, if you haven't listened to our previous episode with Gail, please go back and listen to it. I think you'll get a lot out of it. And where can people find you, Gail?
My website is realspeaking.com. I will warn you, it is an OG website. About 5 years ago, I was going to update it. And one of the women in my class said, "Oh, don't change your website. It's charming." And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." She said she bombed on Dr. Oz in New York. She went around and she said, I asked, I need help with my speaking. And she said, I heard your name 15 times. I went to your website, I looked at it, called over my marketing team and said, get a load of this website. She's the OG. No, I didn't know what an OG was. So I said to my niece on the way home, who was helping me film the class, what's an OG? And she laughed and she said, Auntie Gail, it's the original gangster. It means you're the one who developed the work and you can have a crappy website because if you have a business with a website like that, you're the OG. So I thank the class for saving me thousands of dollars in a new website. And this is the website I've had for 25 years. But it does bring my upcoming class. I'll do one this year. It's May 8th through 11th here in Santa Fe, Transformational Speaking. And there's also a link to explore transformational speaking online.
Fabulous. And what can our listeners do to live a life with more courage in their speaking?
In their speaking, trust that thing in the moment you don't think you can say that can open worlds. Something's going to come. You got to be home. This means no script, structure, no script. But something will come through that you thought, where'd that come from? Trust it. That's the courage that'll take you into a new world in your speaking, because someone there needs to hear it.
Oh, thank you. That's so, what a great way to end this, Gail.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you,
for,
Tanya.
this was fabulous once again. And if you're listening and you're curious about transformational speaking, I highly, highly encourage you to go try Gail's class. You know, it really is life transforming and it'll take your speaking to a whole other level.
And
So
I'll tell you, Tanya, people say it's on their bucket list. And at 80, I remind them I'm much closer to the bucket than they are. So come now.
I love that. It's so true because many of us are always like, oh, I'll do it one day, someday. And it's the same thing that's happening with my upcoming event. I didn't know that this was going to be my last in-person event for the next couple of years, you know, next year for sure. So it's the same as when COVID hit, is you just never know. So if it is on your bucket list, figure a way to get there. Do it now. Don't listen to your mind chatter because you just never know if there will be another one, you know, and if Gail's going to want to teach that. So thank you, Gail. Thanks again.
Thank you, Tanya. What fun.
Take care. Hi there. I have something really cool for you. I want to give you free access to my signature course called Manifesting Abundance, which typically sells for $997. You can check out all the details in the show notes, and all you have to do to gain access is leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, take a snapshot of it, and send it to help.thecouragetobe@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up with access to the course.